All right, time for Sally and I to have a look at the stories that are making headlines in the international press this morning. Well, in the studio is Amrita Sen, an oil analyst from EnergyAspects.com. Good morning, Amrita.
Good morning,
Lovely to see you. Let's start then with The Guardian and private manning. Obviously, the whole case raises issues about national security, secrecy and the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the issue over here, is getting the balance right between secrecy and security. There's a very thin line between a whistleblower and a spy. Yes, I think from the law point of view, yes, he was guilty and he was sentenced, but equally the leaks which showed all the army personnel doing all the stuff that they did in Afghanistan, they haven't been convicted.
Indeed, but there is a body of opinion, certainly in the US, that considers that he's caused quite a bit of damage as a result of his exercise, and that shouldn't go unpunished. Well,
no, I mean, I think from the law's point of view, it was a bit black and white. I mean, there was an espionage law, and he did break that. But I think there is something to be said about taking a step back and saying, okay, did he actually do damage? Did he leak information about potentially spies, that American spies elsewhere? No, he didn't do that, and kind of goes hand in hand with what's going on with Snowden at the moment. It's a really broad case in the US, right? But coming down to, okay, yes, this shouldn't have happened, but equally bring to justice the other wrongdoers.
And interesting how the internet just changes everything, doesn't it? Yet again.
Talking of which, let's talk about Twitter making it easier to report abusive posts. Twitter had to act, really, didn't it? Given all the press following the terrible abuse that the British activist received. That's Caroline Criado Perez, who was basically campaigning to see a female on a British pound, £10 note, and the response she got was horrendous. Now, others have come out since and said, this has happened to me as well, some British female MPs. Something had to be done, didn't it?
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think Twitter's been quite particular in not trying to be too much in terms of saying, oh, you can't post this and you can't post that. And that's what Twitter is for. You express your own opinions. But it did get to a point where it was just getting, there are certain lines that people shouldn't cross, and that was crossed.
But to what extent should Twitter or Facebook or other social media organisations be held responsible for what people are saying on their sites?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah,
it's about freedom of speech.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's a difficult one.
No, but I think what they're doing is right, though, that if there is something you feel threatened by, you can at least report it, not by having to fill out 3 long pages, right? You just report it.
What really grabbed my attention was the fact that 400 million tweets are posted every day.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not surprised about that. But anyway, I post quite a few.
I'm sure 200 million are yours.
No, I'm not quite as bad as that. But anyway, now the Daily Mirror, one of the main tabloids here in the UK. Kate Footman forced back to the slums. This is a story. I mean, you couldn't make this one up, could you? This is about the young man, Badr Azim, the footman, who was famous instantly worldwide when he brought out and placed on the easel the news that the new prince had been born.
So he was part of this wacky British tradition.
Yes, completely.
I think we can actually see it, just to remind viewers of the part that this chap played in British history. There
now,
you see him.
He has been living, of course, because of his job in palatial sort of, royal mews and what have you. But he's been sent home because they would not, the UK authorities would not renew his visa to stay in this country, and he's gone back to slums of Calcutta, this paper describes, where he's sharing it with a vast array of family members. It's quite a different world.
And of course, I'm sure it's the Daily Mirror using the term slum just to raise the spectre of slumdog millionaire and so on. But what do you make of this?
It's a broader issue of immigration in terms of, now it is a lot harder for not just, the talks about making it harder for EU members as well to kind of stay in UK. He was lucky when the times were different and he could stay on. Ultimately, it's a job. Yes, obviously he was in the media glare because of the royal baby. But today, if it turn the tables around, if he was allowed to stay without a visa, I'm sure we would be talking about this a month down the line, saying, "Oh, Buckingham Palace employed somebody who didn't have the." Yeah, absolutely.
They pull strings.
And it's unfortunate, but
it's a great story, and the papers are making the most of it.
Moving on to the FT now, and I suppose an issue of corporate responsibility, and perhaps that that notion being taken advantage of?
Yeah, I mean, obviously BP has arguably paid the price. Yes, what happened in the Gulf of Mexico was terrible. We still get reminded of it, all these swans covered in black oil and so on.
People died.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People died.
Absolutely. And it was horrible. But I mean, now what BP is saying is it's gone to the point where anybody and everybody is saying, oh, I want to claim for that, and they need to put a stop to that.
And there's a lot of legal firms in the States ready to help them too.
No. And I think this is the problem. I mean, BP are not popular. They're not popular in the US at all, and I think they're facing the repercussions of that.
Next year, they'll find out if they're going to be deemed as grossly negligent or not. I mean, that is still a huge cloud hanging over the company, isn't it?
Absolutely. And also, I mean, there was a temporary ban placed on them. They can't drill in the Gulf of Mexico, and they have been the pioneers in terms of deep water drilling. So that's a big, and they've been selling so much outside the US to just fund this. They sold their stake in Russia, they've been selling stakes everywhere else. So yeah, this has cost them a lot. I mean, not just reputationally and money-wise, but just generally, even future growth-wise. They still have to sell a lot of assets just to keep this going.
Let's move on to, what is this? The China Daily.
China Daily,
it's
the business section
of China Daily. And talking about the amount of money that China is now preparing to commit to renewable sources of energy. What is this a sea change in China? We know them to be king of the coal mine and coal-powered energy.
Oh, I think they are, and it's a small step in the right direction. I would say, put it into perspective, 70% of China's electricity still comes from coal. But at least they're making the right moves. They're moving towards greener energy, so incrementally they're going to get greener. It's a part of the new regime that's saying we need to rebalance to a more sustainable economy. We need to do more in terms of making sure that China grows for a longer period of time rather than growing very quickly and then coming down. And yeah, I mean, they are really going at it. Hydro, nuclear, all of these. So.
Now let's have a look at this story, which I must admit I loved yesterday. I loved to hear the news that the violin that was owned by Min Jing Kim, a young lady who owned this Stradivarius that was stolen 3 years ago. She was dancing with joy, quite literally, when they found it. Now, it is worth £1.2 million.
That might be why.
So incredibly valuable. But no, I can completely understand. I play the violin and I've got a family heirloom.
I didn't know this.
I've got a family heirloom. And if mine went missing, I'd be beside myself. And it's not the monetary value, it's just the sound. It's part of you. It's an extension of you.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing over here, right? That it's a part of your identity. And if you did lose that, what do you do? But I think this is an interesting one because the insurance paid out the money and now it's sitting with insurance. Does she have to pay it back? That's the question. I think that's a really tough one because
we need to find out.
Yeah, I think that's a pleasure.
Amrita Sen, oil analyst from EnergyAspects.com. Thank you so much for going through the papers with us this morning.
And thank you too for your company. If you're with us on BBC One, you can join breakfast in a few minutes. If you're watching us on BBC One, I'm afraid you're stuck with Martine and I. We'll see you soon.